So just as a reference point, as we're taking you on this journey, so operations, all the green dots, I think they're green. I'm colorblind. Are they green?
Yep.
Okay, the green ones are done.
Greenish.
And then the last dot that's colored is now we're going to monitor active harvest blocks. So essentially what that means is that so we have the harvest schedules generated by Andrew Piercy, all that was scheduled, things that are going to be coming up in the near term. We can package those units up and send that out to the operators. And then they're going to have all that information in field to help guide that operations, and we can track those operations. So we're into the telematics, so the Internet of Things, which is critical. So this is the chapter 4. And again, the information is going to be coming from Stratus into an application called OpTracker. And for this, it's going to be Adam Archibald, our newest addition to the team. So Adam, over to you to kind of talk about this. I think I just said what I already said that slide, I think.
So I will be kind of occupying the roles of an operations manager and a machine operator with a little bit of flavor of what maybe a district forester and a GIS analyst would do as well. So as Doug said, we're at the point of the workflow demonstration where volume is being removed from the block. The trees are being harvested. So the operations manager and the machine operator are very crucial to this stage of the supply chain and of the process. So I'm going to be using, as Doug said, mostly an application called OpTracker today. Let me just bring that up. OpTracker it comes in 3 components. There's a web application, a mobile application, and a data logger that plugs directly into the harvest machine. Clients that use OpTracker or are interested in OpTracker would typically pick up some kind of combination of those 3. They could use the web application and the mobile application. They could use the web application and the module, the data logger, sorry, or they could use all 3 together. Now, what they use would really just depend on what they're trying to collect, what information they're going for. All right, so this is the web application portion of OpTracker. Again, so there's the 3 components, the web, the mobile, and the data logger. I'll be focusing most of the time today in the web and the mobile application. And then again, we'll be talking a little bit about Stratus as well. So what I'm going to use OpTracker for is I'm going to schedule the Bonnie River block. And by schedule it in OpTracker, I mean I'm going to make it available to my machine operators in the forest. So we take it from the web application, we make a downloadable packet on the mobile application. That packet includes the block boundaries. It includes any ancillary layers like streams, roads, water courses, wetlands. And around those different ancillary layers, we can trigger warnings or alarms. So if they encroach too close to a water course or a stream, they will get a warning. If they get even closer than that, they will get an alarm. And we can set what those alarms and warning distances are. We can say 50 meters for a warning, 30 meters for an alarm. And when that alarm comes up, there's a big beep. We don't have volume on, thankfully, otherwise it would be way too loud in here, but it's meant to capture the attention of a machine operator. So that's why we have it set up like that. So once we, by way of how OpTracker is created, it's built directly on the Esri infrastructure the same way that Stratus and Prism is. And that means that transferring information via layers, feature layer connections, and all that is very straightforward and very streamlined. So we'll be able to see the buffer that Sandy took out, and then we can transfer that information again onto the mobile application. So on that note, on the maps here, we can see a fairly standard map setup. Up in the top right corner, we can see all the different layers that we have connected. The 2 that are the most important are the planned activities and the scheduled activities. Now, the planned activities represents ultimately all of the blocks or the polygons that you eventually plan on making available to your machine operators when they're in the field. That's kind of what we call the scheduling process in OpTracker. Think of it more as just assigning that work packet to an operator. The scheduled activities, which are grayed out right now, those are created by a copy of the planned units layer. So our planned activities layer, it's a connection directly to the Stratus activities, as I said. Once we assign that to a contractor through here, a copy of that polygon is made and added to the scheduled layer, and that's what the mobile application reads. And the reason that this is important and very useful is that's a direct line of coordination between the operations manager in the office and what the operator is seeing in the field. There's fewer needs to drive out to the forest, to drive out to manage your operators when you can directly, put something on the tablet in front of them that they then put in the cab of their machine. For the operator, it's very useful because they're getting all those spatial layers, all those warnings loaded again directly into their cab. So there's a much smaller chance for error. There's a smaller chance for trespass, encroachment into places they're not supposed to be, and with no reliance on paper maps or PDF screenshots or anything like that. So It's a much tighter, less prone to error workflow to get this data into the hands of the operators. So we're going to start again in the mobile app or in the web application. I'm going to turn on my planned activities, which is again a direct connection to the activities layer in Stratus. We're going to zoom in. These are some of the blocks that we had available. Down here, we can see one of our main character blocks. That's Bonnie River. It has the road buffer taken out of it that Sandy had made. We can turn on the satellite view to show, again, there's that camp. There's the road that was taken out of it. We can turn on some different layers, again, if we want, to help us plan, to help us see what other spatial information is available. Now, what I want to do, again, as the operations manager with this block, because I know it was pulled forward from 2027 to 2026, I want to make that available to my operator to download onto their tablet. So what I do for that is I go to Add Activities, and I'm going to select Import from Layer. I'm going to choose our planned activities because, again, I know I set that up in the features or in the configuration settings of OpTracker to point to that activities layer from Stratus. And I'm going to hit Select on the map because it gives me a chance to kind of zoom back out, review the full extent, and select the polygon that I want. So we'll zoom back into all our areas here. And I'm going to select Bonnie River. There's a little bar down on the right. This means have I selected all the blocks I want to include in this packet. There's a select by lasso here where you can select multiple units at a time and you can create a packet for your operators of multiple polygons or multiple activities, but we're just going to be choosing Bonnie River 1000 clear cut. So I would hit check for continue. Then I need to populate this configuration. Really what I want to draw attention to is this base layers field here. This is where I include all those additional layers that I want to empower my contractor with, the streams, the water courses, areas of concern, different properties I need to be aware of. This links to an XML file that contains those properties as well as the rules for the distances of the warnings and the distances of alarms. And you can even take it so far as to say if you have ephemeral streams mapped out in your layers versus perennial or permanent streams, you can put different warning settings and buffers and alarms on different features within a layer. So this is where I would fill all that out. Now, in the interest of time and in the interest of the demo, I've already gone ahead and done this. So I'm going to now open up the mobile application. Before I do that, actually, I want to look at the other block that we have. And that is up here. This is the Sealy Lake 1003 clear cut. So this one is active. Now, what I said earlier, there's two layers that we were looking at. There's planned activities and scheduled. We know that Sealy Lake is already under operation. So if I turn on my scheduled layer, this is where the copies of the blocks have been made. We can see that that one changes color because it's already been scheduled, it's available for download, or already has been downloaded by our operators in the field on their tablet devices. Now, what we would see here, if we were able to create this data, is telematics tracks. We would see if the machine started here, a red track that showed the way they're cutting in and cutting out. Unfortunately, telematics data is very difficult to spoof or create, so we weren't able to add that to this data set. But when we get to the mobile application, we have a block that one of our clients graciously gave us that shows that telematics data. So I just wanted to call that out now that as the operations manager or the district forester surveying things on the web application, I would be able to see those tracks. So I'm going to now navigate to the mobile application. If I can get my mouse and screens figured out here. There we go. So there's three blocks that you have in the mobile application. There's add block, there's load block, and then there's the, oh, I got a timeout there for being logged in. There's add block, there's load block, and then there's the actual map like block screen that the operators would spend most of their time in. So this is a list of all the blocks I would have available as an operator in the field. Again, I've left the office. I'm no longer the operations manager. Now I'm the machine operator in the field. I've got my tablet in front of me, and I can see Bonnie River 1000 clear cut here available to load onto the tablet. Again, in the interest of just saving clicks for the demo, I'm not going to load it on because it takes a minute to collect all that spatial data that we have attached to it as the base layer. But this is where I would download that, and then I would hit Add Selected. If I leave the load block screen, now I'm on to, or if the add block screen, sorry, now I'm on the load block screen. This represents all the local blocks I have saved on my device. So the previous screen is hooked up to that OpTracker web. It's looking at all the ones that have been scheduled. These are ones that I've downloaded locally onto my tablet. So we can see Sealy Lake 1003 clear cut. Then we have this special guest unit, MFL or MFBLK 119. This is the one that we've gotten from a client that shows that telematics data. So I've selected that, I've downloaded it from the ad block. I'm going to load it now on my tablet. So I'm going to turn a couple layers off because we have that layer control in Op Tracker. So just bear with me while I turn this off. Start a little bit cleaner. So this is the load block or the map screen of Op Tracker Mobile. This is what the operator sees, up in the cab of their machine. These red tracks here. So I'm going to use some tracking as they go through. So we can see exactly what blocks that they've collected. Now this information is useful for multiple reasons. I was out in Nova Scotia with a small contractor group that uses this. They often assign multiple machines to the block. So when they collect this data every day and then sync it back, they can see where all their other operators in the area picked up and left off that day. So they get that nice extra spatial awareness of where everyone is and where they ended up. The operations manager, the district forest manager, anyone else who's in Op Tracker or Stratus, because this is a layer that will transfer back to Stratus, they can see this information anytime as well. It can even be brought into Remsoft operations, the way that all these layers hook up together. So that's what we're looking at here. We have a layer control here that refers back to the ancillary layers that I showed earlier. So we can see alarm area and warning area. These were configured. You can see the warning area hugs very close to the streams. We have different stream classes here, perennial, ephemeral. So we can see the alarm sites, and then outside the alarm, we have orange for warning. You can expand, you can change these warning areas as much as you want. The green hash line is the outside boundary, so that's beyond the block. That limits, what the extent of the block is. So we also have the ability to load TPKs or tile packages. I think the one that I really wanted to show here uh, is the canopy height model. So if we have different LiDAR layers or different things that could also lend spatial awareness and contextual information to the operator, we can put those in that base layer, or we can load those TPKs directly on the tablet for them to have as well. So as an operator using this solution, I have a lot of spatial awareness. I can do my job extremely effectively. I can help, I can understand where I'm cutting in, where I'm cutting out. I can plan my day's routes, especially if I have colleagues that are nearby in the block as well. So now I'm going to exit this, our special guest here, and we'll go back to our main character, Steely Lake 1003. We're going to load into that. We have a couple extra layers here left on it, so I'm just going to turn off one of the shaders here. And again, this is the block that we've been looking at throughout this presentation. We can see the water courses we've added as the ancillary layers. We can see again the warning and the alarm areas. We can see the prism plot that Xander set up earlier as the field analyst or the inventory planner to see where that data was collected. So again, it's kind of that linkage of all sorts of different information flowing through the integration on Esri and through APIs and all that. The other thing that I want to show, since I can't live track telematics, which I really wanted to do as a part of the demo, but that's kind of hard to pull off when I'm sitting up here at a desk, I do want to show the thinking capability, that SYNC capability in Tracker. So I'm going to use something we call a GeoNode. Now, a GeoNode is something that I've seen as an operator or an operations manager in the bush that I think needs to get back to the landowner, the district forester. Someone else needs to see this so we can action on it appropriately. I've already added one up in the top in preparation here for a great horned owl's nest. But let's put a new one in, and because I'm not, there's a lot of birds in southern New Brunswick, we'll add another nest here. So I hit new and I selected point. Now this is important because points, lines, and polygons show up. They occupy different layers under a GeoNodes group layer back in Stratus and Op Tracker. So I want to add a point to say this nest is here. If I noticed something that was a segment or something that was an area, I could create those kind of GeoNodes as well. So we're going to call this one a nest as well. You can see there's a list of different types of GeoNodes to add. This list is configurable, as are most things with our solutions. So folks could create a list of what kind of GeoNodes they would expect to see. But again, I like birds, so we're going to add a nest. This time we'll call it a bird, owl, nest, and we're going to save this GeoNode. Now, just kind of to really clarify this, where this is a GPS-based geospatial application, I would see my little blue dot on here as well as I'm creating the tracks. Again, this is just located in New Brunswick, so that GPS dot doesn't show up here. So I've added this. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close out, and I'm going to go back to the menu. And we now see there's an X over synced. So what we want to do is sync the information I collected back into the cloud, back into the web app and into Stratus. Typically this isn't done with GeoNotes. This is done after a day of creating those machine tracks. But this is the best example we can have right now. Now, the other thing I want to say is we talked about harvest actuals and Remsoft operations as well. There's a way to estimate those with OpTracker. It's not direct from the harvester head volume, but when we see those machine tracks going through, within OpTracker, you can set an arm length for how long the boom is on your machine. That will then create a buffer around the tracks that you send in and out. Any area of the block that's within the buffer of the lines of where your machine has gone is counted as harvested area. And then it's just a kind of a 1-to-1 percentage of that's the actuals coming from that block. It's an area-based percentage estimate. You know, you're going to have thicker pockets of denser volume, bigger stem or piece sizes across the unit, but that can give an estimate. If that's good enough for us in Remsoft operations, we can collect that and bring that in through OpTracker. So I'm going to go back to the web application now. I'm going to turn on my point GeoNotes. So this is a layer, and there is the new GeoNote that I added. So what we can do now in Stratus is we can buffer that live or live back in the office. I just need to find my mouse here, sorry. We can add a buffer around that in our operational planning module. So I'm back in Stratus now. Someone has called me or told me, or I've gotten a notification that a new GeoNote is dropped in that area. So I'm going to go into operational planning. I'm going to select my unit or just zoom in. I like maps, so I'm going to zoom in on it manually. Here's my harvest block. This is Sealy Lake 1003. I'm going to turn on that GeoNotes layer again, put our point on. We'll close this to get it out of the way. Here's where I can select that point. We can do the same spatial edit that Sandy said earlier. We can add that buffer around it. We can clip the buffer directly to that note, and then it will take the area out of the activity once we're done. We just need to select the radius, meters, feet, set that setting up to be how we want it. So that's basically it. Again, it would have been great to show that the tracks being created by the tablet or by the machine as it's moving through the block. I've done that in my backyard with a tablet to get to know OpTracker just as a sales engineer. I've taken it and recorded my own tracks. But this is kind of the way that we can show, again, that connected information. Once we hook it up to Remsoft operations, you'd see that buffer taken up out of it as well. So, we've gone from the plan into the trees being harvested by the machine. We're collecting data while we're out there, whether that's telematics or buffers or whatever it is. Now, if you're using the data logger, which we haven't talked about much today, that's collecting an even richer data set on machine utilization, movement, productive machine hours, different rates of fuel burn, things like that. So that's kind of where that selecting the three, the web app, the mobile app, and the data logger are extremely useful as well. So it's really up to what the client wants, what information they want to collect, and we help them get set up with it. So Doug, that's back to you. That's the end of the telematics chapter. And
if you think about telematics, from that field, that's the Internet of Things. That's what we're talking about, is connecting that information from the field back into the system. And there's just so many use cases for this. Just simply like ribbonless blocks, so you don't have to, if you are having to flag blocks, you don't have to anymore. If the package is all there, it's all geo-referenced, the operator knows the boundaries. Of course, the violation risk is a big one. So if you're creating violations, you can get penalized, or it could be contracts, those kind of things. Having all those kind of warnings just helps that contractor or that operator kind of operate where they are, especially working at night. I have never run a machine at night, but I mean, having everything in front of me, knowing where I am in the block, all those kind of things, because what's on the back end, you can get yourself in trouble. So just having all that navigational stuff. And for me also in the telematics piece and Adam didn't really hit on this, but we're sending back information in terms of where he's operating or where she's operating. You can see all that information that he said, but there's no reason why we couldn't send other data back about the machine as well. And that's like when it's operating, when it's not operating. So you can get between, productive machine hours versus scheduled machine hours and start getting productivity rates based on a bunch of data coming through. Of course, Adam talked about the volume. That's critical coming through, getting the actuals back in. So we also have an application log 365, which is something we want to build out even further, as Grant even said, getting that operational data from the harvesting head. That's golden, right? So we want to get that information because we can use it in so many places. But the last thing is just the data flow again. Again, still going to keep hammering on that. It's that seamless data flow and integrated. So now you brought all these people into the whole process without having to actually talk to them. So, which is nice. And as foresters, we don't like talking to people. So we like to go more introverted. But so on that note, I'm going to pass it over to transportation and logistics. So I'm going to introduce Craig Hall.
Thanks, Doug. It's good to be with you and sharing about Remsoft Logger from Doug's introduction. Obviously, the story thus far, we understand that Sealy Lake has probably about 40% of its harvest operation underdone. So there's a stockpile now built up at the landing, ready for haulage to start. Our integration with FMS, GIS, and with Remsoft operation not only activates it in Logger as an operation ready for haulage, but also passes the operation parameters and supply contract information that is used to support the generation of the digital load slip. So if I just use my mouse, hover over Sealy Lake here, I can confirm visually that my haulage contractor, DJ Forestry Logistics, is assigned to this work. It's active and I can now head out to that forest. Before I do that though, I'm going to switch hats from being a hauler to Fundy Land and Coast operation planner and just have a look at that operation set up in Logger here. So coming up to the operation, selecting Sealy Lake, entering in edit mode. You'll be able to see as I take you through the setup that Logger is supported by a web admin portal that allows us typically during the onboarding process to help you set up your supply chain and including your customers, contractors that you're working for, delivery locations and products, so that when you come to administer the site, if you're not integrated like we are today, where that information is brought over, an admin can use the drop downs to add information to it. So it could be setting the active period of this operation, selecting the forestry certification that's applied. In this case, it's FSC 100, change the operation type, add another haulage contractor to allow it to be working this operation. Scrolling on down, we can see our GIS boundary that's been brought over from our integration, but we could also upload that GIS from a save file on your computer or make use of the inbuilt drawing tools to rudimentarily draw that boundary. Scrolling, and I'll come back to talk about that a little bit more. There could be additional custom metadata that's being attributed to this operation that helps track for business intelligence. As an example, that this operation might being connected to a larger regional area in New Brunswick, and we may want to track that connection in relation to the other operations in the area. We come on down to examining our delivery locations and the products that are being produced from this site to be delivered to those locations. So again, via the admin, I can go and select another meal and assign those products that be options for the driver to select when they create their load slip. Coming back, I point this out to, I guess, let you know and see how, if you're not integrated, how simple it still is to administer an operation like Sealy Lake. A fair amount of our customers aren't integrated and are using the services but pointing out of the ease and utility of this, supporting customers getting into Logger. We typically work with them over a few weeks period to get into Logger, to help them set up and be able to start undertaking loads, which really allows us a low barrier entry for those who are wanting to trial going electronic, to be able to be supported to run that pilot with very low commitment and get a few hundred loads under us. So if that's something that you're interested in trialing, then certainly seek me out on the booth, but I'll probably actually turn around and get you to discuss that with account manager or your customer success person. Talking about the GIS boundaries and the importance of it. We use this to detect the truck arriving and entering in that forest so that we can trigger their known location as their starting point, and so that we can also record their position and this geo-polygon boundary to the load slip, so that every load slip is its own chain of custody source from where it started, the polygon boundary where it's come from, the certification of that forest, and from that forest to their delivery location, track the routes that they're taking. I'm not going to be moving in our demo, so I just want to flick over to a customer that's allowing me to show a completed docket, this being in Scotland. You can see here that this operation has its geo shape, and we've tagged the driver as being in there. That's helping them support creating of the docket, and as mentioned, recording its GPS, replaying it in a time series so that we can detect that they're using the right routes, that their truck is permitted to drive on, and equally where these rates might be affecting rates payments or payments to private road owners, that we can use this GPS information to confirm where they're being and where they're going. We also geofence the delivery location so that we can configure that for the check-in, weighing and unloading procedures of that site, but equally to ensure that the driver does arrive at the intended destination, which is expected, matched to their load slip. I do have one issue here being in Montreal and not being out in New Brunswick, is that I'm not going to drive all the way out there today. So I have actually cloned that operation for our demo and have positioned that geo boundary over our location, so I can stay seated and create the load docket. If I zoom in, you can see a few dot points there recorded from my practices and demos out the front. So just now bring up my iPhone. I'm screen sharing my iPhone here so that you can follow along with me, pointing out that I am on an iPhone. Most often, Logger is used on a bring your own device that might be the driver's or being provided by the haulage contractor. Other times it might be a fleet device that we've had to provide them the install files so that they can push it out on to their managed fleet. But just really wanting to confirm, you don't need specialist hardware. You don't need additional GPS tracking hardware. We can use the GPS that's served to a consumer grade phone, being iOS or Android. So I'm logging in as driver Craig, driving a prime mover with the listed registration, logging in. It's authenticating me now to the forest managers that I'm working with, synchronizing up with the server and pulling down the operation parameters, the geo boundaries, including this geo boundary over our city here, storing it locally onto the device so that I can now head out to a remote location, use the stored information on the device to create the load slip, and then sometime between leaving the forest and arriving at the delivery location, it is expected that cellular will be found, and then we can synchronize up. Obviously, if we're in cellular the whole way, we can track that in real time via the inbuilt live maps, and send out notifications as soon as the load has commenced to stakeholders and the customer. This load is underway and this is what it's carrying. But as I said, I won't be moving position today. So I've driven out to that forest. My demo is going to have me record the three main core steps. where I am in my starting location, which is GPS detected, which is in our case Sealy Lake. I will then ask the question of where am I heading. If I select Back Bay Pulp Mill and click Next, it's asking me to confirm the product. You'll notice on the screen that it's a pulp product because that's being defined as a valid product to the pulp mill. If I go now and select our sawmill, Southern Lumber, and click Next, it's showing me the saw log and the stud product. So I'm going to select the saw. Just before I continue, again, just in this demo, the core attributes, where I am, where I'm going, what I'm being carried with. Logger is very system configurable, so there might be additional questions that I need to answer as the driver. It might be that I need to give a freeform response or even take a photo, so the driver can do that and add that additional information to the load slip. Clicking Next now. My last step is just a driver declaration for chain of responsibility, stating that I'm fit for duty, I'm not fatigued or affected by alcohol, confirming that I've done my pre-trip inspection, my load is secured. Again, this is editable, so you can put your own words to that. I'm hitting agree, and now how I've completed creating that load slip. As I'm talking, being in cellular, it's synchronized to the server. I'm now getting a green cloud icon to confirm that it's visually synced. And now I'd be free to drive on now to that delivery location. And I'll just jump over to now display my customer persona, where I'm looking on here. If I was about to move, you'd be seeing me on the live map, but just to the right here, you can see now here as Southern Lumber Timber Products. I can see now that driver Craig is inbound with an active load to my destination. So I'm driving off now and heading to that location, and soon going to be arriving on that site to undertake the weighing process. I've got a kit out the front that I welcome you to come along, and because I won't be moving from the stage, I've got a truck driver helper that's going to drive out there. Not quite driving to New Brunswick, but I think you got a little bit of a journey to get out the front.
It's come a long way.
Just letting me now switch over to the weighbridge. Grant's arrived. Grant, give us a wave. You can see the placement of the truck on the weigh scales. Just bringing up my driver app again. So I've arrived in the geo fenced area, the delivery location that the app now lets me deliver my load. Grant's positioned onto the weighbridge. The weighbridge is now recording my weight against it. It's stabilized. It's now asking the number plate. If we're looking along, we can see a weighing session, the 10th of the day, recorded that weight, detected my number plate from the camera, presenting that now to the driver in the app. They're adding their visual confirmation, hitting accept. It's now passing that information back to the weighing session that you can see here. It's complete. The gross is now underdone. I'm driving off and going unloading my load. Again, just like the creating of the docket is configurable, delivery locations are configurable as well. In this case, we are integrated with our weighbridge service. It might be going to a site that it's not integrated with. The driver might be using the information on the screen to be entering into a kiosk. We can display information in a barcode or QR code for scanning as well. The driver, after weighing, might be given additional instructions, like they're about to be product sampled or graded. They might be giving instructions to go to a particular bay to unload in, but we're keeping it simple here that I've unloaded, I've marked unloaded, been giving the next instruction. I'm going now to do a tear, entering in the way, listening. The weighbridge is stabilizing at a tear reading, creating that session. The rego is detected. The driver is adding their confirmation. That's completed now a gross tear net recording, created a digital receipt, passed that back to the driver app. So now as the driver, I can see that digital receipt, be confident of my delivery has been measured. Clicking next, I'm now complete my job and now ready to head back to the forest. Thanks, Grant. Just before I now move to have a look at that delivery and the reporting function into it, I just want to point out here of the cloud-connected nature of our delivery and weighbridge service. Clicking one of these tabs, I'm heading over to Wales, to Pontrilis Sawmills, and if I'm lucky, no, it looks like it's nighttime there. We're probably not going to see any more loads today. But we can see their weighing sessions. Jumping now over to northern Tasmania with a chip exporter. They've got an inbound and outbound weighbridge, number plates either side. If we're lucky, we may not be lucky, but you can see down here a completed result that from the other side of the world that I can pull up, see that measurement ticket and see the nice photo of the truck and the weighing session that happened. So logger can, in its weigh scale, can be remotely monitored, and with the API and reporting engine into it, be immediately being able to pass that information to head office, to your ERP, and to be able to start taking next steps with that reconciled load. Jumping over to the reporting, I can see here again from the customer view, the load that I just undertook and a few more earlier in the day, pointing out the multi-party nature of logger. I've applied my profile to other personas, so I can go back now with my haulier persona, clicking that, switching the view, and now I'm looking at the haulier's record of the work that I have undertaken, or head to my landowner, Fundy Forestry Services, and see that result as well. To the load that I just performed on behalf of Fundy, Fundy can open that up. It would have seen that GPS information if I had moved onto a map, but quite importantly, as the landowner, I immediately can reference those digital weigh scale tickets that has been provided, and pointing out here the weigh scale and the head office has captured the data. The haulier's got their record of the work that's undertaken, and me and the landowner has immediately got back the measurement tickets and the completed load information. So we're all in sync to those parties that's involved in the load, and I guess being in sync, we are reconciled. We'll be talking more about this tomorrow in one of the breakout sessions, and adding to the story of the advantage of being digital and what additionally can be possible, that the further benefits of being connected and integrated with the Remsoft suite of solutions, but just emphasizing again, because it's been mentioned several times, the ability to be a multi-party connected supply chain. Examining Tasmania here, where 100% of the wood is running around on a logger load slip, and I've activated this that work so that we can see it over the here and clicking on one of those, I can bring up that digital load slip and be able to reference this in real time, again, from those different personas. Where you're associated with that load docket, you can access that information.
So I'm just going to wrap it all up with kind of the final piece of the puzzle. So you've seen through the first 5 chapters just the connected nature of the different processes across that value chain. And now what I want to get into is talking about how does that roll all up. So how do you use that information in one central place? And again, Ray, you kind of hit it on it in the LPAC journey you're on, and it's the same journey that we're on as a company. So for me, and for all of us at Remsoft, where we see a big part of the value is being able to take the information from all of your applications, even external applications, and bring it into one data lake. So that information then can be served up for things like business reporting, spatial analytics, geospatial analytics, more optimization, point optimization, and of course, AI, which is everyone's kind of favorite topic of the day. And just this diagram kind of summarizes what we're working towards. On the left-hand side is your customer interaction, so your applications that you're working with. And today what you saw essentially, and on the right-hand side is external stuff. It could be satellite imagery, it could be other telematics, what other, it could be weather data, whatever other information outside of your world that you wanted to bring in as well and share in this data hub. And today what you saw from that diagram essentially is those are the chapters. Those were all the different applications that were used and all the data that was either generated or already stored in those particular applications that support that workflow process. Well, in the background, as these folks were making changes, information from all of these applications was being loaded into a data lake. Okay, so this is what I want to talk to you about now. It's just this data lake. So as that information is being updated live, I don't have an optimization example of using a data lake. I don't have an AI example. I don't have a geospatial analytics example, but I do have a business intelligence example. Our data is pretty flat, to be honest with you. In terms of the demonstration, I don't have a big, rich database. So what I want to do is share a Power BI. Is that coming up? Yeah, perfect. Okay. I'll go full screen. So, got a Power BI. Fantastic. That's not magical. You've seen these before. What to me is cool about this is that this is something that we've talked about for a long time. This is capturing information from all those applications, and we're actually reporting on something that is very difficult to report on. On your left-hand side, those blue bars, that is the inventory information from the harvest schedule coming from Woodstock. The green bars is the inventory information coming from Remsoft operations. The orange bar is harvesting actuals coming back from all those load tickets that we generated that came into this application. So what you're doing is you're getting a view in terms of an inventory view across your whole enterprise for this particular year. And why this is kind of cool is you're actually looking at planned volumes versus scheduled volumes versus actual volumes. That's a very difficult thing to pull together. And why does that matter? Well, you can start answering a whole bunch of questions about your business. This is just one use case that we came up with because we don't have time to do all kinds of use cases. So we came up with this one. Why is it important? Well, first of all, you can understand, do I have strong plan or scheduling adherence to the plan? Am I following the plan? Is there a lot of variability in that plan? Does it matter if there's a lot of variability in that plan? And if there is variability, why? So what's driving the variability from what you said you're going to do and what you're actually going to schedule and what are you actually getting? So understanding those questions are really important questions. And think this is pretty coarse data. Like this is just for 2026. Think about if you had 2025, 2024, 2023, 2022, all of that data rolled up. You can start seeing a lot of things about your operations in terms of those questions I was talking about. And at this example, what we're seeing this is 2026. Again, the blue bars, total volume that Sandy Loader scheduled through optimization was about 151,000, 150,000 cubic meters for the year. Andrew Piercy in Remsoft Operations is scheduling about 175,000 cubes for the year because he's laid out a full schedule for 2026, assigned crews and so forth. To date, we're 2 months in. Well, three months in, I guess we're near the end of March. We've got about 35,000 K delivered in longer tickets, delivery tickets coming into the application. So we already see there's a planned variance. And to me, there's two reasons for that. Either the operations volumes that you're scheduling operationally are overstated, and the woodstock volumes are understated. That's a potential reason for that. Or what's going on? The other aspect of the question could be is that, well, maybe Andrew Piercy was scheduling a bunch of things from 2027 and 2026. So he was ignoring the woodstock plan and just doing whatever he wanted to do. Those are probably the two major reasons that's what's going on. The other reason is that maybe my actuals against the actual blocks, I'm underperforming. I'm not delivering as much as I thought I was going to deliver. So this tells me we're actually operationally scheduling more than we thought. And this middle part is just on a byproduct basis. Okay, so I got pine studwood, pine sawlog, pine pulp, hardwood, and so forth. I mean, obviously the data is telling me that we're overstating the pine studwood and the pine pulpwood. Again, I don't know if it's an inventory issue or a plant adherence issue. And if I look on the right-hand side, these are all the individual units that are being scheduled in 2026. If I see a blue and a green together, that means it was scheduled in Woodstock, and Andrew Piercy, who is our operational scheduler, has scheduled it in Remsoft Operations, so I'm following the plan. If I see a blue one, it means it was scheduled in Woodstock, but Andrew ignored it. He didn't bother scheduling it. And if I move down, I see that, hey, wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of green ones here that weren't, there's no blue bar, so they weren't scheduled in Woodstock. So Andrew's doing whatever the heck he wanted. Andrew, I'm picking on you, but just like, you did it. This kind of worked out because this is how you scheduled it out. So it worked out really well. So it tells me what's going on here. And there's a little couple stats on the bottom there. It's like, really at the end of the day, there's 12 planets, there's 12 units that were scheduled by Woodstock and planned in operations, adherence. There was 4 units that were planned in Woodstock that Andrew ignored. And there was 10 units that were not planned in Woodstock that Andrew decided to schedule. So to me, the reason why we're off schedule is probably because Andrew's changed everything. He's doing whatever, he's rogue. He's gone on and done whatever he wanted to do. Now, is that an issue or not? I don't know. It depends on your business. But I know one company that we work with, they measure this on a quarterly basis. It's a measurement of their sustainability. So they have to report, are we doing what we said we're going to do? They look at what they said strategically, what we're going to do, what stands we're going to harvest, what did we actually do in that quarter? And it's a measure of their sustainability and variability within their plan. So that was just, I thought that was an interesting point. The other thing too is we can actually look at, I can just filter this a little bit. Again, it's a BI port, so it's like, great, but. Did that update? No, it didn't update, did it? Oh, it's still going, yeah. Okay. You can see these are the blocks that were actually planned, harvested, and scheduled, and delivered, finished for January and February. So we can see what's going on here. Again, you're seeing the deliveries, the story here, the deliveries are underperforming versus what we said we were going to do. So it could be in there too. So our actuals aren't as good as we thought. Now, if you had op tracker data coming in, you could start looking at, well, are we actually cutting what got sent out to the operations? What percentage of the area are we actually harvesting? And if you had all this data over time, you could say on average, we're only harvesting 92% of the area. So why is that? And again, if you brought in more data, you can start analyzing that and understand what's changing the operation. So that was essentially what was going on. Go back to them all, see if it updates. Oh, and just so you know, you can see this block, that Bonnie River 1000. That's that block that we're following through. You can see that Andrew rescheduled that block, and now it's in the operational schedule for 2026. But if I looked at the 2027 schedule, you would see it in the Woodstock schedule out there. So it's just an idea in terms of where we're getting, but you can start comparing this data across. If I look at the delivery information, not as much of a big story in here, but you can see where the wood's going and is it going where it's supposed to be going. You can see everything seems to be online. one thing you're noticing here is that if you think about back to Sandy Loader's scenario, he said Kedron's starting to not take wood anymore. You can see that Andrew Percy on the green bar, he's still scheduling wood to that mill. So we know we're cutting back, Andrew, but you kept the flow going to that mill. So you can see an error in the business. And the other thing too is that you can start seeing things that maybe, actually this is a Sankey diagram. So you can do all kinds of stuff. You've seen this stuff before, but the use cases are kind of cool because you can start seeing, if you had the allocation schedule in there, you can see, well, did the wood actually go where we said it was supposed to go from an allocation optimization point of view? And there was a use case, I know of a customer in New Zealand. They were having a big problem because one of the blocks, all the saw logs were supposed to go to some mill, but it went to a different mill. And what's going on? And they're losing margin because of it. But the truck driver happened to live in the town where the other mill was, so that's why he was delivering all that wood over there. But so the whole concept is like, is that once you have the information into one place and start using this is just a very simple use case based on the data that we had into one spot. And as the guys were making changes, as I'm pulling this in database, it all gets updated in real time. But once we get more interesting and rich data in this place, we can do a lot more with it. So that was kind of the way to kind of wrap things up, to kind of show you how it all pulls together and how it can be in one spot. So I think we'll end it there. I just want to say that what we tried to do today in the last 2.5 hours was just show you how the different applications can address different business processes across that value chain and how that data flows across those things. And again, we couldn't have done this 12 months ago. It was the strategy of having these different companies all come into one, that being Remsoft, Limb Geomatics, Logger, and Infloor being into one company. And then we can actually start doing some of the things that we've always dreamed of doing.